Good morning, everyone. We're continuing in Mishnah Berura, Daf Hashavua. We're learning Siman Kuf Mem Aleph. Siman Kuf Mem Aleph. Dine HaKoirei v'Hamakra. The laws of the reader and the one who feeds him. Says the Mechaber, Seif Aleph. Tzarech likrois me'umad. You need to read from the Torah standing. V'afilu lismech atzmei la'koisel. And even to lean on a wall, oila amud, or a pillar asar. Elam kenhu bal basar, unless you are a master of flesh, which means unless you're heavy. This comes from the Gemara Megillah Daf Chaf Aleph. Haga v'chein hachazan hakoirei tzarech lamed im hakoirei. Likewise, the shatz that reads needs to stand with the koirei. We'll see what that means. It says in Mishnah Berura, Tzarech likrois me'umad hakriya shekarin betzibur. You need to read from the Torah standing. V'yalfinan zeh midachsev. We learn this from the pasuk. V'yata pa amoiri madi. And you here stand with me. Mashma afilu Hashem yisbarach hamakre l'Moshe haya oimed kiviyachal. Hashem was the makre, Moshe was the koirei, and even God was standing. You stand with me. I'm also standing. You stand with me. And if so, certainly all of Israel was standing out of fear from HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave it. We say further, we say, just like it was given with fear, so too you need to be noyeg with fear. So let's say if somebody was looking at their phone during Kriyas HaTorah, is that a violation of Kriyas HaTorah being be'ema? You said it, not me. Yeah, of course, obviously. But the thing is, it can't be in the shul in the first place, so therefore you don't have a problem. Because you have to stand in the shul be'ema uviyara. So you're not allowed to bring it into the shul. You know about that? Did I ever mention that? You can't bring a phone into a shul. What if you have a medical emergency? Then you have to speak to a paisek. Don't ask me. Speak to a competent paisek. Speak to one of the paiskei hadar. But me'ikar hadin, you can't bring a phone to a shul. It's a violation of Moira Mikdash. Also, you don't have a fighting shot to have 1 ounce of kavana. Besides that, you'd be allowed to. Really? You know, I always say people want to know, do you have to wash for Shal Shudas? Not everyone has to wash. Only Jewish people have to wash for Shal Shudas. Goyim are not required to wash. What about phones? Even Goyim can't bring a phone into a shul. It's simple common sense. Moira Mikdash. Certainly, if let's say your mother's Jewish and you have a bris milah, you can't bring it into the shul. I don't know if I ever mentioned that. But now we're talking about Kriyas HaTorah. Kriyas HaTorah, you have to be noig be'emo vira. Mikamakam b'di'eved shekara meyushav yatsa. B'di'eved, if you read the Torah sitting, you're yotzei. Be'en tzarach lachsav l'kus. You don't have to read it again. Beis. V'afilu lismech atzma, even to lean. Hainu afilu smicha k'tzas, even leaning a little bit. She'im yinatel oisay davar lo yipal. Let's say you're not really leaning. If you would take away the thing you're leaning on, you wouldn't fall. Gam kein asar. It's still asar to lean while you're leaning. The tzarach lamed be'ema. You have to stand be'ema. Leaning on something is not be'ema. The Dirshu brings that we said earlier, could you lean a little bit during Shemoneh Esrei in a way where if you would take away that thing, you'd still be standing? Well, it depends why you have to stand for Shemoneh Esrei. If it's because tefillah needs amida, smicha b'miktsas is still amida. But if it's because you need to stand be'ema, then you will not be allowed to. Oila amud, hu shulchan akriya chahagavna. That's the shulchan. In other words, the Baal Korei cannot be leaning on the shulchan. Elam kain hu Baal Basar, unless he's like Rav Papa. Rav Papa, the Gemara says in many places, was a Baal Basar. Vuadin chayla, or if he's sick, Oizakein or old, harbe, shekashalai amida b'lei smicha, it's very hard for him to stand without leaning. Az yizar sheyismach ktsas. Ach yizar sheyismach ktsas. He should just be careful to lean only a little. V'lo yismach kol kach, not lean so much ad sheminato osa davar yipal, that if you would take away the thing, you would fall. What if the person could only lean completely in a way where he needs to put his full support on the support? Then b'diavad it's mutter. There's a Rav in my neighborhood who is a zakein, and he had a knee replacement, and he's very good about tefillah, and he davens all the tefillahs, and I think he even does tekiyah shofar sitting. He can't stand. He does the whole shebang. You name it, he could do it, and he could do it well, but he does it sitting. And you're allowed to, b'diavad you're allowed to. You can lean on the cloth on the bima. Why? Because the cloth on the bima is a tashmish kedusha. Shetashmish kedushahu. Ela ala shulchan atzmai. You can only lean on the table itself.
How is that not a tashmish kedusha, the table?
Because the table is servicing the mappa. So it's tashmish de tashmish. Tashmish de tashmish, we said earlier, ein boy kedusha klal.
So the person has to lean, has to hold on to the bima. They should lift up the mappa and let him hold on to that.
Yeah. Or you should get a crutch. Lamaisa, we say later on that the bima has a din of tashmish kedusha. Why? Because sometimes you put the Sefer Torah without the matpachas. The Shartzian adds, sometimes the matpachas rolls up, and then the shulchan serves. But the shulchan fundamentally is tashmish to tashmish, not tashmish kedusha. So you can lean on that, but not on the mappa. But that's provided there is a mappa. If the shulchan doesn't have a mappa, then you can't lean on that.
How far does it go? What if there's a glass on top of the mappa? So the glass is the mappa is the tashmish and the shulchan is nothing? Or is it also tashmish? How far does it go?
Then the glass is servicing the mappa, and the shulchan is probably also servicing the mappa. We'll see. We'll talk about that in Siman Kuf Nun Daled. V'chein hachazan hakoyrei v'adin hasagan she'omed etzel sefer haTorah. So what is the Mechaber says? The reader has to be standing. V'chein hachazan hakoyrei. What does it mean? V'chein hachazan hakoyrei? Meaning nowadays the Baal Koyrei should be standing, aside from the Oila, I guess. It says also the Gabbai should be standing. Sometimes Sefer Torah is very long and big. The Koyrei needs to read from the Ksav. The Oila also has to see the Ksav. So the Baal Koyrei needs to leave room for the Oila to be able to see the Ksav. It's impossible for them to see the top of the column unless they bend over. So then in such a case, yesh lahater, you could give a dispensation for that. Why? Everyone sees they're not leaning in an arrogant manner. Now this is talking about Shazo kishaoimed zakuf v'samach. Avol zeh shaoimed muta v'chafaf. It's only gaiva when you're standing erect and then you lean. But when you are bent over and you lean, that's Eiman Yira. Avol zeh kishaoimed muta v'chafaf. This guy who's bent over and leaning, Amida be'emahu. That's considered standing in fear of hu yachal amid samach. He could stand leaning. Dechein basagan. Likewise, the gabbai shall piroiv avaydasa hushu oiches bayad Also, the chazan, also the gabbai, his main job is to point with the yad where in the Sefer Torah the Baal Koreh is leaning from. What line they're up to, what word they're up to. Sometimes it's impossible to do unless he leans over. Mutter, that's permitted. So basically, anytime you're leaning over to facilitate the kriya, either because you need to see it or you need to assist with it, achizar, that's permitted. Achizar sha'achar she'yikra hashur sal yonos. Meir Shalom, you just have to be careful after you finish reading the top lines, the yageh b'chatzi amar karvloi, and you get to the midway point. Now you're able to see standing, so stand up again. Don't lean. She'ef shaloi luras heita bli smicha yizkoif mishchiyasai. Make yourself straighten up from your bending over. This way you don't have to lean at all. Ad kan devarav. These are the words of who? The Sharei Ephraim. Sharei Ephraim is a perush on Hilchos Kriyas HaTorah. Okay, we'll hold it over here. Tomorrow, Thursday, we'll continue in Sif Beis.